Well, hello, my dear friends. Justyn Smith here, and I want to thank you so much for click and play today. It's a blessing to have you back on the channel with us. Have a very interesting topic entitled today based on the verse that I'm going to read to you in just a second. The question is, what's that smell? Have you ever had a situation in life where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came a smell that was odious? I mean, it was a hideous smell. It was something that smelled very bad, and you sought where that smell was coming from so you could take care of that smell because that smell is very unpleasant and you don't want it in your house, in your car, in your garage, whatever. What's that smell? Well, right here in this book of the Bible, in this chapter of the Bible, 1 Chronicles 19, we are going to see that there was a particular people group that made themselves stink, made themselves smell before the bad guys. Before we get to that point, let's read the verse 6. And when the children of Ammon saw that they had made themselves odious to David, they smelt bad to David. Now, we're not just talking about you know, something that you smell with your nostrils, okay? Something, oh, they stink. We're talking about how they acted, the things that they did. They were odious to David, and therefore it's a stench before the nostrils of David. When he thought about this people, it wasn't a good thought because of how this people were acting. By the way, there's a stench that comes up before God, an odious smell that comes up before God when his people are not responding to him or acting the way that they should. This leads us to our first point. They made themselves stink before the good guys. Look at verse 1. And now it came to pass after this that Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, died, and his son reigned in his stead. And David said, I will show kindness unto Hanun, the son of Nahash, because his father showed me kindness. And David sent messengers to comfort him concerning his father. So the servants of David came into the land of the children of Ammon and to Hanun to comfort him. Now think about this. David's just trying to be a blessing. Have you ever tried to be a blessing to somebody and they did not want your blessing? Well, that's what's going on in this chapter, and ultimately why they are going to stink before David because of the response that they're going to have against the extreme kindness that David is trying to show them. But the princes of the children of Ammon said unto Hanun, Thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, that he hath sent comforters unto thee? Are not his servants come unto thee to search and to overthrow and to spy out the land? These voices in the son's life, the new king, these voices are going to lie to him about the kindness that's being sent to him from David. And likewise, you can have voices that lie to you about the kindness that God wants to give unto you and say it's not really real, but yet rather it's deception. Well, look at what goes on in verse 4. Wherefore Hanun took David's servants, shaved them, cut off their garments in the midst hard by their buttocks, and sent them away. So really, he's shaming David's servants that are trying to comfort him. Verse 5, Then there were certain that told David how the men were served, and he sent to meet them, for the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, Tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. And when the children of Ammon saw that they had made themselves odious to David, Hanun and the children of Ammon sent 1,000 talents of silver to hire them chariots and horsemen of Mesopotamia out of Syria, Makkah, and out of Zobah. Now, what we see in these verses is that the people are going to give counsel to their king that is in error. And instead of receiving the kindness of David, they are going to shame the servants of David and send them on their way. Well, this makes them stink before David, and instead of seeking David's forgiveness, they're going to hire help. We need somebody to help us because surely David is going to be upset with what we have done. This leads us to a second point this morning, and that is David stood strong in the face of adversity with the help of his mighty men. You must remember that David was trying to be kind, and now these people are smelly before him, and the people are setting themselves in array against David. We read this as it continues in verse 7. So they hired 30 and 2,000 chariots, and the king of Mecca and his people, who came and pitched before Midbah, and the children of Ammon gathered themselves together from their cities and came to battle. Notice how David responds. When David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of the mighty men. Now notice how they gather together and they fight this battle that's thrown in their direction. And the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array before the gate of the city, and the kings were come by themselves in the field. Now when Joab saw the battle was set against him before and behind, which means this is not a good situation, he chose out of the choice of Israel. So these are these mighty men, the choice of Israel. He put them in array against the Syrians. Guys, get over there. We need you here. And then they would listen. They would obey. They would go in that direction because they needed to win the battle, and their leader's voice was important to them. And the rest of the people he delivered unto the hand of Abishai his brother, and they set themselves in array against the children of Ammon. You guys go over there. And so they did. And this brings us to a third point. There is a powerful, needful exhortation lifted before the ears of the warriors. When you think about the scene that's unfolding before your attention in this passage, I mean, David was just trying to be kind. David was just trying to send comfort. But then the people became smelly, and instead of seeking forgiveness before David, they hired warriors to come ally with them and fight against David. And now before them and behind them, Joab and the mighty men are being overcome, but yet they divide accordingly. It's time to give a cheerleading kind of message. In verse 13, be of good courage. Let us behave ourselves valiantly for our people and for the cities of our God, and let the Lord do that which is good in his sight. What I think about when I read verse 13 is this great exhortation that is given by those in leadership to the warriors as they're about to risk their lives for their people. He's telling them, you don't have to fear. Be of good courage. You need to have an appropriate behavior for the time that is at hand. We need to behave valiantly. We need to stand fast and seek the victory. We need to do it for our people. We need to do it for the cities of our God. And most importantly, we're going to trust this battle into the hand of the Lord, that he would do that which is good in his sight. This ultimately leads to David receiving a great victory. Notice what it says in verse 18 and 19. The Syrians fled before Israel, and David slew of the Syrians 7,000 men which fought in chariots, 40,000 footmen, and killed Sophaka, the captain of the host. In verse 19, and when the servants of Hadiezer saw that they were put to the worse before Israel, they made peace with David and became his servants. Neither would the Syrians help the children of Ammon any more. Again, what's that smell? The children of Ammon have literally put themselves in a position of smelling so bad to David because they wouldn't receive a simple comfort, because the king listened to the voice of the princes who were lying to him. And maybe they were so convinced that that's actually what was happening, but it wasn't the truth. Battles came and war was happening because they misunderstood the kindness of David. And it causes me to ask this question: what are we going to misunderstand that bring battles into our life? We're assuming the opposite of what is really truth, and we're damaging and hurting ourselves by the voices that we are listening to that are deceiving us in these moments. I think it's interesting that after the great defeat of one portion, there's also the, lifting of the white flag, the we surrender and we want to be at peace with you. We will be your servants. We don't want to die like all of them that died. Listen, they thought they had won this battle, but God was with Israel. God understood what David was going through, and God fought this battle for them as the mighty men and Joab and all those that were with him stood and fought in the battle for the glory of God. So when we consider this statement, what's that smell? It's not just dealing with something that's wafting through our nostrils and ew, that's disgusting. It's literally somebody that's becoming disgusting by what they have done or what they have rejected, just like the children of Ammon rejecting David's kindness and comfort that was sent to him. Let's be good recipients when somebody's sending us kindness. Let's not say we want none of that, or let's not think that they have other notions. May God give us wisdom if that's the case, but sometimes it happens just like this, and we need to say, Dear Lord, give me wisdom, help me to respond accordingly, and Lord, when battles arise in my life, help me to find courage and victory through your precious name. My dear friends, thank you so much for clicking play today. Thank you for joining us. I hope you have a blessed day.